Well, hey, Jason, welcome to Leading is Serving podcast.
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Good. You know, there's a lot of changes that have been going on in this fall time.
I know.
And I'm just trying to keep up with it all.
I was just thinking, like, is it a bad omen that our first night of freeze ends up with, like, snow on the ground the next morning?
Right.
Like, fall's over, snow's here. Right. Buckle up, people. Here we go.
I was like, oh, got to worry about all the winter stuff now.
Oh, man.
So,
yeah. Mm-hmm. That was real. I came down the stairs before the sun came up to, kid stuff, right? And I just stopped at the bottom of the stairs because I could see my car out the window. And I was just like, what? It took a minute to really truly register what was going on in life that morning. That was fun.
That's too funny.
But yeah, man, welcome to podcast. I mean, our goal here is to inspire people to, fight for the highest good of others in their leadership, that we truly think about others first. Not that we're, diminishing ourselves in that, but, that we're fighting for their good. And
right.
It doesn't mean just in the workplace.
Completely.
Across the board. And that is what our day is about today on the podcast.
Yes, and I'm super excited about interviewing this person, Jeremie, just because he has been somewhat that is with his tools and his gifting that he's shared with us, maybe not directly with us, but like he is going to today. He has just made a lot of changes you and I have talked about some of the stuff multiple times over. And then all the more reason I'm excited about the fact that he's here today, because we've been sharing the tools with you guys on the podcast. We start each podcast with a tool, and this is one of the main guys that has come up with a lot of these tools that we've been sharing with you guys. So, I'm super excited that he gets to share his heart directly from him.
I mean, part of our thing this last year on the podcast has been, we want to highlight the stories of local business entrepreneurs, nonprofit leaders, right? Mm-hmm. Jeremie's not local.
No, he's not.
Okay. Jeremie lives in Oklahoma City.
Correct.
He is the co-author of a handful of books, some of which you have heard the tools derived from on the podcast. 5 Voices is a huge one that he co-authors with Steve Cockram. And also 5 Gears. Both of those guys wrote that, as well as the 100X Leader, which incidentally is one of the tools coming up on one of our intros coming up.
Okay.
On one of the next couple episodes, talking about what is a 100X leader, about being a healthy leader and multiplying that. And so Jeremie is the co-founder of Giant Worldwide, which is where we've been pulling the tools from for the podcast, what I've kind of based my consulting on and stuff. But so why though?
Why? Yeah.
Why are we going outside? I think that's an important question of saying that, we reached out to Jeremie because he just had a book release October 4th called The Peace Index. Yep. And I go back to, I think it's episode 41. We spent that entire episode talking through the Peace Index, that's a tool that's been around Giant for years. And it's one that just keeps resurfacing in our lives, in our leadership, in the podcast, as this is instrumental to us.
Yes.
And,
totally agree.
And here's a book being, taking it even deeper. And so we reached out to Jeremie. We're like, man, how can we use this?
Right.
And, and he graciously agreed to come on the podcast.
Right.
But also coming up in November, we're going to hold a peace summit that introduces this concept to our community, to our leaders and things like that. We would love for you guys to be involved in that, be a part of it. It's just $10 to come. It's at Dyes Walk Country Club. We'll tell you a little bit more about that probably after the interview and whatnot. But so stay tuned.
Yep.
You definitely don't want to miss this interview.
Yes.
And but that's we have found this tool to be incredibly transformational.
This is for sure.
That the Peace Index is basically a 5-fold framework to help us understand where we're at and where we're going, and and improve the peace. And Jeremie's I think we're gonna dive deep into what that means and such. And it's about conquering chaos and finding fulfillment in what we do and who we are. And that it's not this is not lovey-dovey, warm, fuzzy, touchy-feely language. I mean, it kind of sounds like it. So you're not too manly.
Right.
You're not too, you're not too tough for this.
Right.
This is stuff that we go through every day. I mean, off the air, we were just saying, we think that, mental health, emotional health, that roller coaster of life, we're all on it.
Right. For sure.
I mean, as a business leader, how often does your life get your
Upheaval.
personal
Yep.
journey for the day get sidelined because of the chaos of life?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean,
it's almost guaranteed 2 to 3 times a week at minimum.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As a business owner, you never know what's going to come at you.
right.
So,
And all it takes is a text.
right. That's the crazy part.
144 characters or less,
Right.
and chaos ensues, right?
Right.
So how do we find stability in the midst of, these things are coming?
Yeah.
And I think this is going to be an incredible interview.
Yeah. So I don't want to say too much more because I don't want to take away from him, but I would love for him to explain this and go deeper. So let's jump in.
Let's jump in. Yeah, we're going to skip the rest of our blabbing.
Yes, and we'll just let him do his talking because
That's
he's a
right.
rock star.
So Jeremie Kubicek, author of the Peace Index. Here we come.
Well, Jeremie, thanks for joining us today. I know you're a busy man, so we're going to just jump right into it. I'd love to chat with us. Tell us a little bit about your journey. Where did it start? Give us a little bit of background information about you.
Good to be with you guys and super excited to share. Yeah, no, I am a farm boy from Oklahoma, and I grew up on this farm, and I had this idea when I was 18 years old. I had mentors. I'd been apprenticed by people, truly discipled, if you will, apprenticed. And so they said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I remember at 17 in a tractor, disking some farmland. I'm like, I want to influence influencers. And that was like the whole idea of it. And so I went on a journey. I went to a small little school and in Oklahoma Baptist University. And I had a professor who said, Jeremie, you're a business guy. You're an entrepreneur. Why don't you use business as a platform for good? And I'm like, man, how do I do that? And so I came up with this mantra my senior year. I'm like, I want the world to fund me to influence it. And so I began this journey. I went to Asia for a term. I came back, and that professor, basically, we established a business in Moscow in 1993. And I moved to Russia in 1993 to create economic school with some business partners, a marketing company, an accounting training business. And we just started using business as a platform for good. And then we used that money and we started Young Life, and we started doing all these different initiatives to help Toys for Tots and all these things that we brought over to Russia to try to, change the culture. And that's where I got established and started. And that experience, that was my first book, Making Your Leadership Come Alive. It has mafia stories. A client was assassinated, car bombs, coup attempts. That toughened me fast.
Sure.
And so I built most of the tools, a lot of the tools from that experience, and that we created. So that's a little bit of how it started.
Okay.
And so then I went on to be in private equity and work for some good guys, work for some bad guys, and in essence learned like the world needs better leaders. The world needs better leaders. How do you do it? So I went on this process of actually training people. And so we started our own business in 2002 called Giant. In 2007, we bought John Maxwell's assets and bought Enjoy, created the Catalyst Conference, LeaderCast, all these brands, Pat Lencioni, Henry Cloud, all these thought leaders.
Right.
And then I realized that was really good, but it was still based in 20th century learning. Butts and seats, sell them a book, and lots of content, lots of seminars, but the world was moving to these little devices.
Right.
Yeah.
And these devices are fast video clips and reels and 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 30 seconds, 2 minutes.
For sure.
So I moved to London in 2013 and started to rebuild and built Giant from Europe. and then brought it back to America in 2015 or so. And
Wow.
that's a little bit of how we got where we are.
That's cool. So with Giant, I know there's a huge emphasis on moving from that, butts and seats and buy a book, information, inspiration. There's a move toward what is actually transformational in the life of leaders. So talk to us about that and that, moving into that 21st century style of learning. How does that look?
Yeah. So if you're listening to this and you work inside a company, you know what I'm about to say is that companies are basically made up of teams. Teams make companies happen. Teams have team leaders. Team leaders can either mess up that team or help that team. And the team, people can work around their team leader or be held back by them. So if the team leader is not healthy, then that team's not healthy, which affects the other teams that have to work around that team. And it's just like, it's so obvious. Get the team leaders healthy. Teach them how to lead. You can't just hire people to do that. There's not enough good people to do that. You have to build leaders. So people are always going, yeah, I had this happen yesterday. I was in Tulsa speaking and the CEO goes, I just hire good people. I'm like, well, how many employees do you have? He goes, 7. I'm like, okay, well, you can do that with 7.
Right.
You can hire maybe you'll get 3 out of 7 people. Right. But you get to 700, 3,000, you can't hire, you just don't hire good leaders, and you have to build them into this culture. So that process goes back to what we've lost in America. And Chris, you'll appreciate this in your business. I know both of you will. We've lost the trades. In the trades, there was something called apprenticeship. An apprenticeship means I do it, you watch. Now I do it, you help. Okay, now you're going to do it, I'm going to help. And then you're going to do it and I'm going to watch. There's a process.
Right.
Well, no one's doing that around your emails that you write, right? It's like, hey, watch me how I send this email. See, boom. Or see how I had that conversation? Did you see? It's not. And so we've lost it in the digital process. We've lost this art of apprenticeship. Well, apprenticeship means learn the information, imitate me, then innovate. But we have so many people who want to be somebody so fast. They take information and they try to innovate it to be somebody, and they miss imitation. And if you don't imitate someone, if you don't learn and teach people how to actually apprentice them, then you're going to get shallow people. And so what I've just done with Giant, we've built a system to train people, to train people, to train people. And it works.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
I mean, I remember in some of my initial training, Steve Cockram, your co-author and business partner with Giant, right? Saying, don't you dare innovate on this yet. Just repeat exactly what I'm saying. And I was like, I'm a creative voice. No, thank you. But then I get into my first workshops, teaching 5 voices and things like that. And I'm like, yeah, I need to imitate everything in this so that I truly know it backwards and forwards before I ever begin to innovate. And it became so true in my life that initially I had just a adverse reaction to.
It's humility.
It is.
You have to humble yourself to something to learn it. Once you learn it, go to town, innovate, make it better, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So how is the platform? Because I know Giant just released a new Giant OS platform. How is that differentiating Giant from other leadership systems?
Yeah. So from everything we've seen, and I don't believe there's another one out there, we're the first SaaS business, so the first SaaS leadership company. So when you think of SaaS, we're really building like an Apple TV. It's formed where people can create content on the platform, and it's meant to help scale. The problem we had was in 2018, I woke up and I was very disenfranchised with our business model because it was a traditional consulting business with about 100 consultants, which is decent size in consulting, 100. But we were hitting a ceiling. I'm like, we're never going to get to our vision. And our vision is to raise up liberators in every city and sector in the world. Like literally, we want people to use our language because our tools, the mirrors that we use, the visuals, all of the content it changes and transforms people because it's helping them become self-aware, and it helps them teach others really quickly. And when you teach, you learn. The problem was we didn't have a platform. We didn't have a system to scale. We had content to help people get healthy, the 100, but we didn't have the X. And so by creating, so in 18, I said, we're going to go all in on content. A CEO, we run, and by 19, we were just spending so much money. We had so much, but getting ready. And then this thing happened. I don't know if you guys had heard about COVID. Did COVID?
Right. Yeah, I heard a rumor. Yeah.
Did it come to Indianapolis?
Yeah, I was gonna say, did it hit your area too?
So COVID shows up, and we're ready. No one else was ready. I mean, all of we don't really have competitors because anyone can get certified on our content, but our growth just started to skyrocket because we had the technology, we had the systems, and people were working from home. And so that was a really great base for us in a really strange way. We were prepared for it.
Yeah.
But we're really just adapting to the way people learn in 2-minute increments and the technology usage from anywhere. And so that's why we built what we built.
Yeah, that's cool. So you just had a recent book release. This is book number 5, I think.
Yeah, it's
right. Something like
kind of. I have more, but I haven't published a couple of them. But yeah,
Okay.
officially hardcover published 5.
Absolutely. So the Peace Index just came out on our podcast. We've been rolling for about a year now. We were reflecting on this. This is the most used giant tool in all of the podcast. We've done an entire episode on it. It comes up all the time.
Right. Even not on the podcast, we talk about it.
Right. And so we have been really excited about this book launch. And then we were also preparing a Peace Summit coming up for our community, inviting business leaders and things like that to it. But tell us a little bit about this book, how it came about, because ironically, from what I've heard, it doesn't sound like it was a very peaceful journey into the writing process.
Oh yeah, no. They asked me to Wiley said, "Hey, we really think the world needs this book, the piece." And this is one of our 75 tools. We use it all the time.
Yeah.
So she said, my publisher, she goes, "Do you think you could write it in 30 days?" I'm like, "So what?" Because normally it's a 6-month process to write a book.
Yeah.
I can write a book in 90 days, typically, is how I write them. And she said 30. And I talked to my wife, came back, said, "Okay, I'm going to give it a try." And I wrote the book in 18 days. Oh, wow. And it's a little shorter. So it's a little, even those out there like shorter books, it's even, that's good. Right. But it's 30,000 words, not 50,000, which I'm normally used to writing. So I did it in 18 days. And, but I think it was because I'm fueled by killing chaos, like conquering chaos. And so, I plant the seed for all of you listening. Most people, when they hear the word peace, they kind of think world peace, or it's kind of fuzzy, or kind of like kumbaya or peace sign, flower child, whatever. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm really been playing with the idea of like, no, actually peace is power. Peace is power, because when you're at peace, you're secure, you're confident, you're humble. Nothing is bugging you, bothering you in the inside. You can literally take ground. And I had a good friend of mine in South Africa. Her name's Rona. She's amazing. And she said, "I had a dream about you." She sent the next day. She goes, "I dreamt that you were literally in this channel, like the sea and the ocean on a beach, and you were walking, and you had iron legs, and you were walking towards all of these waves and the waves of chaos, and they were like hitting you, but you weren't moving backwards, you were moving forward."
Oh, wow.
And she said, "Then I looked next to you, and all of these people started to like link arms with you, and they started to they were peacemakers. They had power because the chaos of the world." And so I started playing with the idea of like, that's what maturity is, to develop inner peace when there's no external peace. And we need more resilient people. We experienced 2 years or more of wave after wave, the
Yes.
tsunami,
For sure.
wave after wave after wave. And it was the resilient who are still standing.
Mhm.
And it's like, we need more of these leaders in the world. And
Yeah.
that was part of the inspiration. It was like Wiley pushed me, but I quickly got fired up about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just a reminder to those listening that this was not 18 days of writing this book was not from concept to final draft.
No,
This has been years in the making.
that's right.
And this has been a cornerstone of the Giant Tools for years. And so this is content through multiple lives, multiple situations, multiple. Yeah.
And every one of our tools, I've gotten asked a lot. So are you a clinical psychologist, or where's your certification from? And I'm like, it's from getting beat up in life and trying to manage my emotions.
Yeah.
And every one of our tools is an answer to either Steve or myself, maybe a few others, but who are dealing with something going, I bet you guys are too.
Right.
Like, how do I manage my emotions? Or what's my leadership style? Or why do I have a hard time being present with people? Or why can't I recharge? Or, and so we just started creating tools to solve these issues that are affecting everyone.
Yeah. Now, I've heard you mention in talking about the Peace Index and in the book that our peace is rooted in our own personal turmoil. And you mentioned some of the things you went through in Russia and some of the craziness there and COVID, things like that. How is our peace rooted in our personal journeys in that aspect?
Yeah. So if you think
turmoil?
about, so you have, like right now I'm looking, you guys have a number over your head, right? I have one too. It's right here. This number is right here. It's a circle. And today this number is 92. 2 days ago, that number was 88. And that's my level of peace. Now, if I had to ask you guys, if we really get into assess, what's your number over your head? And it goes up and down like the stock market.
Right.
Now, the hope would be that we would be mature enough that number wouldn't go 95, 61, 88, 54, and up and down and up and down and up and down. That wears people out. And that's usually immature. Think of the teenage years. They're Pollyanna one day and they're, everything is wrong the next day.
Yes.
Yep.
And so that level of like stabilization is when you can learn to manage the chaos, the external chaos of the world, but then the drama of just your surroundings, the issue. So that's why I put in this book, the categories are purpose, people, place, personal health, and provision. And if you think about it, usually one of those areas can affect your peace level. And your purpose might be off and it's off. I'm dealing with a football player. He's an NFL football player right now. And I'm helping because he left the NFL and he's trying to figure out what he's wanting to do. And, his purpose is off because he can't play anymore. But he wasn't ready to quit. And so that affects it. So he's got to find everyone has a purpose. Right. Some people find it. And so that's a key component. If your people are off, how do we not allow other people's lack of peace affect our level of peace? That's a thing. You got to really work at that. So whether it's place or personal health or provision, I go after it in the book and talk through it. So
give us, you mentioned the 5 areas. Give us a little overview of each of those 5. You kind of touched on people and purpose a little bit, but take us through those just a little bit on a high level.
Yeah. So if you're listening to go, how good do you feel about your purpose in life? Like how much is what you're doing? How much does it match who you are? And you may go, I'm just doing this job for the money. I know it's for the money. It's not really what I'm love to do. I'm not great at it, but I need the money. It's all right. So that affects your purpose. And then, so what happens then, a lot of us in the world, and I've been there historically in the past, that feeling then is like soulless. And then you wake up in the morning, be like, I got to go to work.
Right.
Okay. I talked myself in to go into work, right? We've all been there.
Been there.
versus those times when you're like, it's Monday, let's go.
Right.
Wait, people have those Mondays? Is that-
And so like you can't wait. I mean, I have had times I could not wait for Monday.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like their purpose. And so that's an example, right? And then you get into place, for instance. Place should be places that the spaces that supercharge you. So it's like, how's your bedroom? How's your living room? How's your backyard? How's your house? What about your neighborhood? So we were living in London. We lived in this manor house on the River Thames. It was unbelievable. It was like a movie set. And every morning I'm just like, I love this place. This is amazing. I had pheasants, and I'm a hunter, so I had pheasants outside my window. It was like 30 at a time. It was just a joke. So then we moved back to Oklahoma. We moved back from my parents. We moved back for my kids wanted to move back there. It's hometown. It's like Indianapolis. No offense to the cities that size, but they're different. They're big, small towns.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I moved back. My place went down dramatically because I didn't want to be here. But so we decided, all right, let's control the controllables. And that's a big, big thing if you can. Now we had sold some businesses and then we made some investments, but we ended up building a neighborhood. And I know that's not feasible for most people. That's not a thing you just do.
Right.
But we built a neighborhood so that place number would be really high. So we have an amphitheater we built, a meeting house. We have chickens and common gardens area, 8 acres of walking trails around these lakes. And it was like, we're going to live an intentional. It's called the Prairie at Post. Now that was like control the controllables. My number was a lot, but when I go home, I love it. Like my place is a 90. I'm supercharged. We build it for retreats. We built a silo guest house, and we have people come and stay. They get recharged. So it's a very, very positive vibe. Now, if you can't do that, you can do DIY. You can put up string lights. You can make a fire. You can reorganize your room. You can be intentional with your backyard. You can do things to make it better. So that's just some examples of how to affect your level of peace.
Right. All right. So that's purpose, place. What about people?
So people would be like, this is a dangerous one. In the book, I say, I'm going to have you each do an assessment, and it's in the book. But you can't show anyone this assessment ever.
Right.
Or their peace levels are going to go down, which are going to affect your peace levels. Because you're going to assess your top 10 people that you are around. Who are the top 10 people that you spend the most time with? So this could be coworkers. So it's those you spend the most time with, not just your favorite people. So you go, okay, I work with
you're on my assessment, by the way.
And then you give them a number, like literally a number. He's a 63. She's an 84. Okay. Then why? So far, why is it that way? And then so far as it depends on you to be at peace with them, what do you need to do? And in some cases you realize I need to put boundaries up. I literally need to no, they can't be, they're toxic. Until they get healthy, I can't help them anymore. I've tried too many times. Or, I could probably be a little bit more present. And so it gives you this ability to actually increase your peace level. So control what you can control is the name of this game.
Right.
And what most people think, they think there's too many uncontrollables. Yeah, well, people are just crazy in my life. Okay, well, assess that. Is that true? Actually, there's certain things I can do. Until you've maximized what you can do, then don't complain or whine about what you can't. And so that's what that's about. And then the last two are personal health, which most people think physical health, but that's part of it. But it's mental, it's physical, it's spiritual. I'm currently, I worked on it today, actually. for the University of Oklahoma, I work with the football team. I coach Venables, and then I work with the team themselves. And it's just during season, I'm there a couple of times a week, and then I go to the games with them, and I'm on the sideline of the game. It's an interesting job. But I created an elite athlete assessment, and you assess mind, body, and soul, and actually give them a rank. And so every player has then a number. And it's amazing what happens when you're assessing, because it wakes people up, because then the players know what they have, what their number is, and the coaches have that number too. So you can assess the same thing with mind, mental, physical, and spiritual. And what I do is I give you this kind of, everyone knows what they need to do physically. We all know,
Right.
Mountain Dew, Doritos. We all know, all of us. Let's not act
100%.
like we don't. Oh, really?
Really?
You mean I shouldn't be eating these?
I know.
So the idea is trade up. How do you trade up? And you start having this game plan of trading up and everything. So input leads to outputs. An apple is better than a Twinkie. You'll have a better outcome, things like that. So, and then the last one is provision. And the idea is I take you through an actual way to think about budgeting around your needs, not your wants.
Mhm.
And most people look at provision and like, I'm so dissatisfied because they want that, Ferrari or the latest blah, 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 or something so ridiculous. Or so their wants affect their needs. And I steal from the prophet Mick Jagger. You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it really comes down to contentment again, to go, you know what? I really just need to live within these means, and everything else is gravy. So what if I reset my provision to be around that? So it's helping people know why they're off and where they're off. Then understand what their level is. And ultimately, I'm trying to get people to manage their own emotions so other people don't have to manage their emotions.
Mhm.
And if that happens, then great. So
That's cool.
I love it.
That's cool. So how have you seen over these years of using the Peace Index as a tool, and now it's getting a broader exposure through the book and such? How have you seen the Peace Index affect leaders and organizations as a whole, even?
yeah, so it's great because it's called engagement, and when a person is not at peace, then their people aren't engaged. It's just simple. If you can give, now what we're doing is giving objective language to go. If I said, hey guys, hey Chris, how you doing, man? How are you? You're going to go, yeah, good. How are you? Yeah, good. Yeah, good to see you. Right. Or what you don't want is someone goes, not very good today. You're like, oh gosh, I don't have time for this.
Right.
I don't really want to know.
Can I call you later?
But instead, if I said to my daughter, my son, or an employee, hey, where's your peace index right now? How you doing? What's up? Now I actually have this tool that makes it so much simpler without all of the drama. It's objective. And like, are my neighbors driving me nuts? And I think we're going to need to move. Wow. All right. Thanks for sharing. Anything I can do, let me know. And now by doing that, they're feeling like you're for them because you have common language. And it's not weird now. And now we've actually have some anchor points to work off of. So when you do that, here's what's happening. We're seeing it over and over. I was just with a tire manufacturing company, and they were talking about the Peace Index and how it's working with their employees. They now talk about the Peace Index, and now they feel like, in the past, the CEO goes, I don't want to get too close to my employees because I don't want them to feel like I'm buddy. I need a very, but with the Peace Index allows them to get close without being counselors.
Gotcha.
Because you're not a counselor.
Right.
Where's your Peace Index? And what I'm finding is that a lot of the mental health things, this is just my opinion only, there's a big emphasis on mental health. Well, the solution to most mental health is drugs. take these drugs. So the
Make you feel better.
antidepressant rate is at the highest it's ever been. That can't be the solution when
I
it
agree.
might have been the peace index.
Mhm.
I have an issue with a person in my life. I'm not earning enough money. I don't have enough discipline to control the inputs in my life. So therefore I'll take drugs. and to go, no, actually the peace index is helping people become at peace by recognizing where they're not at peace and doing something about it. And then by that happening, they get engaged, they get healthier. When you have a healthy employee, you have an engaged person.
That's really good.
I know employee engagement is a huge issue in our media today, especially around the workplace, the silent quitting and things like that. What are some ways that you've seen engagement in organizations and corporations just explode through their productivity, their capacity for not just leading and being for other people, but even in their mission of their organization?
Well, so I get the benefit because we train coaches and consultants. You're a part of that, and
Yeah.
but we train them around the world. So I get all these stories.
Yeah.
So every day my phone blows up with stories like you shared, Chris, earlier, and it's so encouraging to hear these things, right? And to go. So what I'm seeing is this simple idea: most people want to be known, and the Great Resignation is people aren't just leaving their jobs, they're leaving their bosses.
Mm.
And if they don't trust or believe or don't see that that person is investing in them, they'll leave. So the team leaders, we're creating hacks for team leaders to invest in their people. I'm not saying fake it, but I am saying the peace index gives you what to do and how to do it. Most team leaders just don't know how to do it.
Right.
And so we're just teaching them, hey, look, two things. Know your employees to lead your employees. Know their personality. Use the 5 voices. It is unbelievable. We're like, oh, they're a guardian. I'm a connector. I'm driving them crazy or whatever it is.
Right.
Got it. Huh. Like light bulb. Do it with your kids. Same with your kids and your spouse. Now take the same thing with the peace index. Now drop the peace index in, and you'll have these conversations that will be more authentic and genuine, that will increase your trust level, their trust level to you, because they'll feel and know that you're for them and you're fighting for their highest possible good. Right. It doesn't have to be rocket science. It's not crazy. It's not kumbaya. It's simple self-awareness.
Yeah, that reminds me of a leader here in Indianapolis that I talked to about it, that he said the peace index type of language, that shared language, helps him have conversations about things that, he's in a very large global organization, that there's certain taboo topics. You're not supposed to ask about politics, religion, and all of the social issues of today. That's supposed to stay out of the workplace in their environment. But through the peace index, he's able to have conversations with his team through that shared language in those aspects that are really pulling people's peace index down. And he's able to find that common ground with them, and still not violate anything organizationally.
I was just laughing at like a non-peace index. Couldn't you imagine the circles of like, what's your political affiliation?
Right.
What's your religion? What's your sports team?
Right.
What's your all of these things? Oh, you could create all types of discord, the discord index.
Absolutely.
There you
Absolutely. Oh man. So what about next steps at this point with peace index? I know I've heard enough of the heart of giant is not necessarily go out and buy a book, right? Because butts and seats, buy a book.
Yeah.
It helps, right? But
absolutely.
But what, if somebody's been listening to this conversation, what are their next steps? What should they be? What could they do actively tonight?
So a couple of things. The one, the book is a spark, and like families, every family should have one peace index book. Just going through it and learning it with, if you're a parent, it is amazing. I started with my kids when they were like 10, 11, 12. doing the peace index, and I'd have meetings with them. So
Mm-hmm.
that would be one. We're having
How
so
often
many.
did you have that meeting, if you don't mind me asking?
No, every quarter I had quarterly meetings with my
Okay.
kids.
Okay.
So, and I would meet with them based on their personality. That's where it would decide where we'd go. My youngest daughter is a little bit more bougie, wants to go to a fun little place. My son was like hunting, fishing.
Right.
So, do it based on them. Anyway, so that was like that's for families. But then we're having so many people buying books for their teams as a gift to go, hey, we're bringing peace into the workplace. Buy it for your teams. But if you want to go deep with it, then there's a peace index course which you have access to, and you can you can share the details of for everyone, all your listeners. But the course, you actually go through and list every person and do the people assessment. You build your budget. You like, if you want to do the hard work, so you can get the peace index very easily by reading the book and go, oh, I can do that for the rest of my life. But if you want to make it like a new end of year journey or a beginning of the year, New Year's process, then the peace index course is ideal for that. So those are a couple of ways, which again, you can share your link for them and they can have access to that.
Yeah, we'll do that for sure.
Yeah, no, show notes.
Yeah, one last personal question. In one of your talks, you talked a little bit about some of your personal routines that you use in your day. I'd be curious if you'd be willing to share that with listeners.
It's my favorite chapter, actually. It's chapter 8, and I was so excited to put it in because I'm a feeler, so I had to learn how to manage my emotions, and I've been working on that. And I'm 51, and it's only been the last 4 years have I actually done that. And my wife has noticed, my kids notice, other people, because I used to be a little bit more like this.
Yeah.
And so I'm way more steady. And the way that I do it is every morning I do a call up session. I call myself into my identity of who I am. I remind myself who I am. Sometimes I have to go to the mirror and go, hey, dude, all right, there you are. And I wake myself up. I go get some workout gear and go try to work out, listening to music, having some Devo time. But all of it is like, Jeremie, you're a freedom fighter. You have iron legs. You're a peacemaker. And I call myself into the position of who I am as a leader. And then I have superpowers. Like, you're made to encourage. You heal people. You help people see what they don't see. You call them up. That's who you're. And I'm literally calling myself into my identity, almost as if I'm putting a badge on of authority. Like, this is who I am.
Right.
Step into it. And then I go throughout my day. At the end of the day, every day at 5:30, my alarm will go off and it'll say examine. And this is not original. This is a Jesuit practice from like the 1500s, but I modified it to fit my life. Wherever if I'm driving, if I'm in the airport, wherever I am, I just go through and I look back and I do 3 things to end the day. I go, what was I grateful for? I had this amazing encounter today in this meeting with this person that I got to help. Super, super thankful that I got to do that today. That was cool. 2, 3, whatever those are. Then I go into like, where was I off today? And I had a situation happen recently where one of my team members of one of our companies, I didn't feel the love or the honor. She was a new employee, and it really ticked me off because it's like, well, she should have, that was kind of felt disrespectful. And so I go into this exercise. So far as it depends on me, where was I off? And I go, what was my tendency there? I'm wanting honor. Why am I wanting honor? It's not about her. It's about me. So I go through and understand my desire for honor. What's my pattern? Why do I want it? And when do I normally want that? What do I normally want? What's the action? And how can I trade up to a better action? And at the end of that process, I was managing my emotions. I was like, it wasn't her. It was me. You're cool. Right. And no kidding. This happened like 2 weeks later. We're at a online, Zoom call or whatever. All our team members are remote. And she said, I just want, and I didn't tell a soul this. We went through and said, hey, who's got some high fives that they want to pass out to the team? And this person, new employee, she goes, I just want to say, I want to high five Jeremie. as a founder, you've shown so much humility. I'm like, if you only knew. But I did, because I took my pride and made it, I actually forced it to be humble. I actually changed and like, don't. And by doing that, but if I had forced it and I had forced honor, hey, you know, I noticed you should say this next time, my influence would have gone down. So I'm learning how to wrangle my emotions, reel them in, dissect them, figure out what the issues are. And then when they happen, I go, oh, you're about to exaggerate. Don't do it. You're about to slander someone. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because these are tendencies we all have. I'm always going to have them, but it's what I do with them that matters. And so that's what I'm ultimately wanting every single leader to learn how to do. Self-regulate, become self-aware.
That's awesome.
That is. Thank you for sharing some of that real world experience, because it is amazing how you go through life, and it's these things that you learn from other people that help so many that could potentially be listening that might have struggled with regulation of just recognizing their selves in the midst of it.
Yeah.
So thank you.
We're very grateful for all that that you and Steve have done in establishing Giant, and the impact it's had on my life just in the last year, jumping in on this.
I can duplicate that, because I've really appreciated it as well.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Well,
I mean,
that's what
you call it, the school of self-awareness, right? I mean,
yeah.
one of the most painful schools ever.
No,
But it is worth it. Absolutely, 100%. So
for sure.
And it's really a lifestyle. And that's, so if you're listening, we're really trying to live a life. Can I share one last story?
Go for it.
absolutely.
All right. So my mentor, this is really funny. He really affected me. It was a guy named Doug. He was in DC. He was 83 at the time. He goes, Jeremie, do fountains move? And I'm like, no, Doug, fountains don't move. Do people come to fountains, or fountains come to people? People come to fountains. Why do people come to fountains? Because they want to get refreshed. They need water. It's ambiance. It's like, do people come to toxic fountains like bad water? No, people don't come to bad water. No, those are cesspools. He's like, be a good fountain. That was it. Be a good fountain. Meaning you have to cleanse and purify who you are if you want the influence that you want to have, because people won't come to you. You can force them to come drink the water. They won't. But if you focus on this journey of like, hey, why do I do that? Yeah. And every day, you're working on these things, 1% a day improvement. Over time, people come to you. You're not forcing it on them.
Right.
That's great.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
We might have to change the name of the podcast to something with fountains, right?
I'm gonna go home and listen to this like
Sprinkle.
5 times.
That's right. Well, Jeremie, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much.
We really appreciate it, man. And,
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
we'll be back with you guys here in just a moment.
You know what, Jason, I got to tell you, it was so great to talk to Jeremie today. I'm sure that you feel the energy that I feel, that after that conversation, I'm ready to conquer the world.
Yeah. I mean, that's the energy that I've been training under for the last year with Giant.
Right, which
And
is
I
just amazing.
Yeah, I love it. Love it.
And I love his heart. I love how he's going about doing things, and love it that he's pouring into people like us.
Yeah.
To help us pour into other people, which is just amazing. I'm
Absolutely.
super exciting.
Absolutely. I love the aspect that the Peace Index brings of, managing our own emotions.
Yes.
So that others don't have to manage our emotions for us.
Right.
But then there's also the aspect of how we can be, mature in our emotions, so that others' chaos doesn't wreck our
affect
own.
ours. Yes.
Or wreck our own peace, right?
Right.
And so it's really like you use the word resilience. It's a resilience in our culture from COVID to, how your football team's doing this weekend kind of
Right.
thing, yeah, just super cool stuff.
And I mean, truly, like, I would say one of, like, he touched on it, but like one of the bigger things that we deal with in today's world is the constant struggle of emotionally where people are at.
Yeah.
And so, like,
Yeah.
yet again, like, once again, this tool is just an amazing thing for
Right.
the time that we have. I mean, like, we knew it was great before, and that's why we've talked about it so many times on this podcast. But I'm super ecstatic the fact that he broke it down and wrote a book about it.
Yeah.
So that we can bring it again to the highlight of what, like, we don't just throw these tools out to people just because we think it's a great thing, like, or a good thing. Like, these tools are like life-changing kind
Yeah.
of tools. Like, not the, oh, you might go to Burger King instead of McDonald's kind of breakfast kind of conversation. It's like these things are earth-shattering, life-changing. They can help you balance out life a little bit.
Right. Right.
And as a business owner, or even not a business owner, like, I feel like this is one of those things that changes people's lives no matter where you're at.
Right. Right. And like you said, he's not a counselor. He's not a therapist.
Right.
We're not, that's not what we're going after when we talk about inner peace or, having that resiliency of our, mind, soul, and spirit, everything involved. It's knowing where you're off.
Right.
And setting a plan. Like, I love the language of trading up actions,
Right.
and, so some of those actions might be to talk to some therapists and some
Right,
doctors,
totally.
I mean, when you
Yeah.
get in that personal health category, sure. But, like you said, $30 at Menards for some string lights.
Right.
You can,
But when you're in the midst of that and you recognize that you might need some actual therapy in the midst of it, you know what you're working on. It's not
bring
because
some clarity.
Yeah, it's not because you're living in the wrong place or you happen to go to the wrong place. It's because you need some help with something else that you're not able to control.
Right.
And he talked about that many times. Like, we're working with the things that you can control.
Right. I mean, like the provision category for me, if I didn't marry my wonderful wife, my provision category would be a train wreck.
Right.
Because I don't,
mean-
I'm good on the big picture, but she manages the day to day. How many times would my electricity been cut off by now? It wouldn't be, maybe I'd have plenty of money,
Right.
but I just can't get the bills paid.
Right.
And so provision is in a good place for me because of the partnership with my wife,
Right.
And so, understanding where we're off and how we, set an action plan to, trade up.
Right.
Trade up actions. I mean, I have to admit, though, the one example he used, trading a Twinkie for an apple, that's a
Yeah.
big step.
We can talk about that more after the podcast.
Yeah, well, the apple might be a little far, so we'll
Get half and half.
That's right. That's right. But y'all, want to just remind you that we've got the Peace Summit coming up on Thursday, November 17th.
Yep.
This is an opportunity to go deeper in this and to really sit in that moment that we've just heard here on the podcast
Right.
of taking that assessment of the number that's hanging over each of our heads and how volatile it is and how we can move toward resiliency in that.
Right.
And so we really want to invite you to that, not just because, it's $10 to get in.
Right.
This is not a,
Not an expensive thing at all.
no. And, this is not, we're trying to make money off of this either.
No,
This
for
is
sure.
just, we believe in the transformational power of these tools.
Right.
And we want to share them. And
Right.
we got to cover our costs.
That too.
So
Yep.
in there, we'll put the link of where you can register in the show notes. But if I remember off the top of my head, if you're listening, this might be wrong, but I'm 99.8% sure it's right. So, the bit.ly links, bit.ly/peace-GW for Greenwood.
Okay.
Peace-GW for Greenwood. So bit.ly/peace-GW.
And when all else fails, check the show notes.
Yeah. And when all else fails, just call Chris because
No, check the show notes.
But in there, you can also add on the purchase of the book too, and we'll get you a copy of that and have it for you there so that you can take that home. But yeah, just a couple hours that night of really digging in and understanding how when we're at peace, how that affects our engagement, not just at work, I mean,
Right.
we're going to gear this toward the business leaders, toward the organizations, toward, like Jeremy said, we need better leaders. We're gearing it toward that. But, like he said, how many examples in this podcast have been about how it's affected us as families?
True.
As husbands, wives, spouses, business partners, to parents and kids. I mean, this is something that your middle schoolers and up can grasp onto and understand. And so, feel free to bring them along.
Yes,
I think
please.
it'd be great.
Yeah.
And at the Jeremy mentioned the Peace Index course. That's it can either be self-study or it can be done in a cohort as well.
Okay.
We'll be talking more about that at the Peace Summit, of how to
great.
access that course, how to be a part of that. And so, it's just taking a step further. One more step toward peace, one more step. So
thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Absolutely.
We're going to cut it short, or not cut it short, but cut it.
But we're going to go listen to this again so we
Right.
can remember it all.
We'll see you guys on the 17th.
Yeah. Hey, don't forget to like, subscribe.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Like
Shoot us. Yeah. Go to the new website, leadingserving.com.
Please do.
Yeah. Awesome stuff.
Oh, make sure you share this too, because we definitely
Yeah.
rock star.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Y'all have a great day. We'll see you then.